Hey Dan, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit and talk with me. How are you today?
Good, Gary. Yourself?
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So speaking with you the other day, it sounds like you have quite the story regarding custody battle, parent alienation, and really sparked my interest for what I do as a profession. So I would love to hear your story, and if you could share just a little bit and piece about what you went through.
Sure. And just to preface this, it's pretty involved and it's been going on for years. So I'll just start off by saying that, divorce can be tough with any couple. I was blindsided with mine. And when she told me that she wanted a divorce, my number one focus was my daughter. So my main goal when speaking to her was, to get split custody. And, I really focused on that, which I was rebuffed every single time that I requested it, that I wanted, 50-50, 60-40, whatever it may be, just so I could be an active part of my daughter's life.
Yeah.
So I sat back. I was in court for about 2 years. The initial proposal was I was going to have my daughter every other weekend, and that was it. And I was not okay with that. I'd been an active partner of life since day one, and I wasn't going to settle for anything less. So we finally reached an agreement a couple of years after the divorce proceedings began. And I ended up getting my daughter 30, I think it was 35% of the time. At that time, I was beaten down, going to court, 50, 60 times over the course of 2 years. It takes a toll. Yeah. So at that point, my thinking was, well, this may be the best I'm going to get without going to trial. So, I took it and just wanted to keep on living my life and make the best of it. About 6 months after that, I received a text message when I was actually speaking at a seminar. And unfortunately, my ex knew that I was speaking at a seminar. So I had my laptop up, I had a PowerPoint presentation, and the text showed up on my laptop. And the crowd that was there, they saw it as well, and my demeanor changed immediately. I saw it too. I actually had to leave the seminar early because I was pretty blindsided. I was told that that she was going to be moving my daughter a couple hours away. And, myself, I had actually moved from, it was 16 or 17 minutes away from her. There was a big fuss made about that in court. So then I moved 8 minutes away from her to cut down that time. So, everything I was doing was to try to make things better, make things easier, be easily accessible. And the mindset at that point on her side was to then move my daughter a couple hours away. Now, the reason she had been doing that, or the reason that she was going to move her away, was because she started seeing somebody new. This is actually a former friend of mine who was also her best friend's soon-to-be ex-husband. So I actually spoke to her ex-best friend because I was blindsided by that as well. Yeah. I just wanted to know how she found out. She told me that her best friend just told her. She said, "You can't do that." And then they were no longer friends because she refused. So knowing as much as I did about their relationship and her now husband, which is him, he was refusing to move to Boston because he wanted to remain on Cape Cod. I'm actually based out of Massachusetts. So he then again refused to leave the Cape, and she ended up choosing, okay, well, I'm going to move from central Massachusetts down to Cape Cod, which is a couple hours away from where I was living at the time. So my thing at that point was, okay, she's choosing this man over her child because my daughter and I, we had a very great relationship, and this is going to be a horrific situation. I saw that right off the bat. So I then, over the next couple of years, we were going back and forth through the court system. I was trying to block this from happening because if you're living 10 minutes away from your child and you move hours away, that's going to negatively affect your relationship. So I found a great attorney. He actually had a similar experience going through some type of divorce in his own personal life. And he saw right from the get-go how horrible this was for me and why this shouldn't happen. He was fantastic from day one. And we actually we referenced a case here in Massachusetts from 2001. It was a case called Altamari versus Altamari, where the mother had actually tried to relocate her two teenage kids from central Massachusetts to the North Shore in Massachusetts, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So after a long trial, discovery, so on and so forth, the court actually ruled in my favor, and they flipped custody from my daughter's mother to me. Now, the ruling that was made, I felt bad for her because living, that far away, her percentage that she saw my daughter went from whatever she had it down to about, I think it was about 15 or 20%. So despite all this, she ended up moving back here with her now husband. And I hate to say it, but I'm actually going to be going potentially through another trial in the next 6 months. I have actually offered her split custody, no child support, and that's not good enough for her. So she has rejected it, which, to be given, 50-50 custody, which I wanted from the very get-go, and refuse it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it just kind of is what it is. So I guess we'll see what happens in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean that's a heck of a story. And I mean that's big of you to, offer those things. And that's one of the things that, like, it takes a big person to have all this turmoil and all this, negative history, and then to still offer your time, or make some sort of agreement. Most people don't want to stay in that conflict, so that's
yeah. And people who ask me about what I've been through, I kind of just start off by saying, yeah, it's somewhat of a Jerry Springer episode. Back and forth over the years, yeah. It's been hectic.
Yeah. Are you and your ex in a better place, or do you guys still? I mean, how do you co-parent? Giving your guys this history, like, are there things that work for you guys and things that don't work for you? Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I've sat down, or I've reached out to my ex a number of times, trying to clear the air, trying to make things civil, and at times it seemed that way. But these types of relationships cannot move forward if you're constantly attacking the other parent and bringing them to court every couple of months. So I told her that a couple months back. She agreed with me at the time, but then a couple weeks later, when I didn't give in to all of her demands, then I was in court again. So it's been that back and forth. I've tried to make it work, but unfortunately, with some people in certain situations, the only way to go about getting what you want is through the court system, and I've found that to be true.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a lot of situations like yourself where they just, like the, let's say, false allegations, the constantly going to court? I mean, it's just like it seems like there's some couples that or individuals that just feed off the conflict and are always in the court system. Have you dealt with other people or seen other people that have had to deal with that as well? Or
yeah, I've heard so many horrific stories. Now, I'm very lucky to be in a state that values father's time and tries to really focus on what's best for the child. To go from possibly having time with my daughter every other weekend to now being a full-time parent, I just never, at the time when she was 1-2 years old, I never thought it would get to where it is. So yeah. Just to be living in the state and to actually be a father again, it's great. I've heard stories out of other states where if a couple were to split up, custody would go to the mother right off the bat, and fathers aren't really looked at as being equal to mothers. And I think that there's just really there needs to be an overhaul of the mindset on how fathers are and the influences that they have in their kids' lives. And I feel like at some points we're living, back in the 1950s where, the fathers were the breadwinners and the mothers took care of the house and the kids. Yeah. And it's not that way anymore. Fathers play such a huge role in their kids' lives, and I feel like, there's a lot of states that don't recognize that to be the way it is now. They're really living in the past.
Yeah. I mean, how did, and that dovetails me into something else. Like, how did you manage that mindset going through that? Like, was there anything in particular that got you through it, or how did you stay focused on, the goal of the best interest of your daughter?
The one thing that, or the two things that really got me through this traumatizing experience was my family and my fiance. Now, when I was given that news back in April of 2018, I was devastated.
I can
And,
imagine, yeah.
you feel lost, you don't know what to do. And you just are in a spot that you've never been in, and you don't really know how to deal with those emotions.
Yeah.
So, luckily I had a number of people in my life that were always there to lend an ear, always there to talk to me, help me work through it. And, being engaged to somebody who's a therapist, she was fantastic, helping me work through a lot of the emotions and the overall trauma that I experienced for years and years.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the support system, because it's like,
Yeah.
otherwise you just bury it, and it'll just eat you alive. I just
Yeah,
those feelings.
fathers in general, they, we're guys. We don't like to talk about our
Yeah,
emotions,
exactly.
but if you're going through something like this, you have to have some outlet or some type of therapy or somebody to talk to. Because when you talk to somebody about the pain and the trauma you're going through, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulders. And a lot of fathers, they just don't do it, or they don't feel as though they have that outlet. But there's always somebody there to lend an ear.
Yeah, it leads me to my next question. Having gone through everything that you did, like, are you looking to help other fathers down the road, or do you currently help other fathers?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been through a very unique experience in my life that not a lot of other fathers can say that they've been through.
Yeah.
I was told by my attorney after the initial judgment that I was going to be awarded primary physical uh, custodianship of my daughter, that there were 7 or 8 other fathers before me who had this happen. So I'm one of maybe 8 since 2001 to have custody flipped. So, I want other fathers to know out there that there are people who've been through what you're going through, and I want to help in whatever way I can, because the pain that I felt for years and years and years, I don't wish that upon anybody.
Yeah.
And after speaking with a number of folks, I want to go out there and I want to help whoever's going through the same thing I went through, because you, like I said, you need that outlet, you need somebody to talk to, and frankly, you need advice on what to do next. I mean, I was navigating the road, I didn't really know what I was doing, I didn't know what to expect, and it was actually a lot worse than what I initially anticipated was going to happen.
Yeah.
So, if whatever I can do, I'm going to do for whoever's going through this too.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you'll do good at that. And, like, it's always better to hear it from someone who's gone through it, or
Absolutely.
experienced it, rather than, at least for me, it's someone who, you can spend 20 years in college and hear advice from someone, but someone who went through it and dealt with the emotions and dealt with
Yeah.
how to overcome that. It's I feel it's a lot more personal. What I know you touched briefly on your story, but, like, what's one major I'll say challenge that you had in your custody battle that you overcame, and what did you do to overcome that?
Obviously, the emotions of going through a long trial and all that discovery in the court, and having to go to court every couple of weeks and explaining to your employer that, okay, this is what I'm going through. I'm hoping you can give me some flexibility with the time off I request, and just what I need to keep my daughter in my life. Outside of that, though, I would say that the biggest issue that I ran into was probably the financials associated with it. When you're working in a good field, having to pay child support, and then pay for student loans and a mortgage or rent, and then on top of that, all your attorney's fees, it gets to be too much. And luckily, I had that great support system, not only emotionally but financially. My parents were huge helps throughout this. They saw what I was going through. My fiance was absolutely incredible the last couple of years. She essentially she supported us for a couple of years while we were going through this. And I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have her.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's like a lack of resources for um I'll say parents, men and women, going through this, or I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people I talk to are just, they get to the financial thing like you said, and then some of them just choose to give up because they can't keep moving. And I just wonder if it's because of lack of resources, or what it is that gets them to that point.
Like you said, lack of finances. I mean, that's what a lot of people experience. But when I first jumped into this back in I think it was 2015 now,
Mhm.
I spoke to a number of attorneys and I told them what I wanted out of this. I told them, listen, I want split custody. I want to try to remain civil. And I don't want to say that I got laughed at, but it was kind of in that fashion where I was told bluntly, that's not going to happen. Mothers have all the power here.
Yeah.
And to hear that from multiple attorneys, that was just a real kick.
Yeah.
Um, and luckily, I actually worked with an attorney who, drove that mindset into my head. I agreed to something I didn't want to agree to, and luckily, the attorney I'm working with now, I found him years back, and I wouldn't work with anybody else.
Yeah, that's great. What's your future look like? I mean, do you plan on writing a book? I mean, I know you mentioned you want to help others, but like, what's kind of your goal in the next, 2-3 years?
Yeah. So over the course of this journey, I actually, I dove into this a couple weeks back, but I created a file on my computer, and I would just take, random documents, and I would write down at that time what was happening, and I started going through all. And, I didn't realize at the time how extensive this was, just all the dates I had in there about, different situations that occurred, or, today was like such and such. And, with that, I want to do something, if not put it into some type of short essay, or
Yeah.
something along those lines, because, there's so much there. And if other fathers could read, this was my journey, and if they know that they're going through the same thing, it might provide them a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for?
Encouragement.
Support, or closure to an extent, to realize, okay, I wasn't the only one who went through this. Look at what he's been through. Frankly, my future is bright. I mean, I'm able to be a dad now. I'm a soccer coach, which I'm stoked about. I have a soccer practice tonight with all the 6 and 7-year-olds. But just being where I was 5 years ago to where I am now, I never expected it to be this way.
Yeah.
You get really down on yourself, and you think nothing's going to get better, but it always does. And you can be at your lowest point, but you have to always think, okay, I'm at my lowest point, but things are going to get better. Things are, it's going to go up. Like, it's not always going to be this way. And with all the fathers I've spoken to over the years who are going through something similar to what I went through, or have gone through something like that, they all agree, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I just have to keep focused on, that time where I'm going to be able to be a father as well.
Yeah. Well, no, you have a heck of a story and transformation. I for lack of a better term, and like you said, looking back 5 years ago, and same for myself, looking back over the years and seeing where both of us are now, and other fathers too. But I think fathers just need that hope and that light, to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
If you could leave our audience with one thing, or a quote, or words of encouragement, or something like that, what would you want to give them?
I know when you're going through it, it can be tough, but never stop fighting for your kids. You chose to be a dad. You want to be a dad. You got to keep fighting. There's a lot of vindictive people out there who are going to try to tell you that either being a father equally is not in your best interest. I was told that it's not in my daughter's best interest psychologically being there 50% for her, which I knew at the time that was not true. Don't give into the gaslighting. Trust your gut. And I actually want to read this really quick. I actually found this yesterday. So this came from Dr. Richard Warshak. He's a clinical professor of psychiatry at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. So he wrote a paper a couple of years ago, And after analyzing over 50 studies on joint custody, children who spend at least 35% time with each parent rather than live with one and visit the other have better relationships with their fathers and mothers and do better academically, socially, and psychologically. They get better grades, are less likely to smoke, get drunk, and use drugs, and are less susceptible to anxiety, depression, and stress-related illnesses. So we have equal parenting time. That's the number one priority. So anybody who tells you otherwise is not telling you the truth.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you reading that, and I appreciate your time coming on here, telling your story, sharing it. Hopefully, someone will see this and you can give them a little bit of encouragement to go through and see that it is possible to overcome certain things. And I just really want to thank you for your time and being here. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Garrett.
All right. Thank you.